It was a great night in Alabama, one of celebration, one of sorrow, and yes, some reflection.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome back to a conference room. And this is Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here as a podcaster here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us on Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And this is a reminder that today's episode of Locked On MLB is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Did you know that it's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS? Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com. Hey, thanks so much for some of the very nice responses that I've had for the last few days. And it's been fun doing the show here, doing the doing the power rankings. It's funny. I did the power rankings a day ahead just because I'm just trying to get some of these episodes in the can. And I had more than one person asking me, how could you have the Yankees over the Orioles when the Orioles just spanked the Yankees? I said, well, because I recorded that before they spanked the Yankees. And besides, that was their power rankings for the entire week. We'll see what happens. I had most people were very kind to the episode where I said goodbye to Willie Mays and talked a little bit about, what it meant when so training back to my dad. And I got a little choked up. Most of you were very, very kind and receptive. Dave Landsman, not so much. Where was what he wrote? He wrote on Locked On MLB. Dave Landsman says, don't you have to be able to speak coherently to have this guy's job? That's what he said to me on the episode where I got choked up. So sorry, Dave Landsman. I'm not as tough as you and obviously not as much of a man as you. So good for you, Dave. And you would think that being able to speak coherently was part of this job. But as you can tell, it's not. So let's talk a little bit. Hopefully, Dave Landsman will be okay with this episode. Well, it was a wonderful night. Let's be clear. This was a terrific night. And when they started doing the Field of Dreams game a few years ago, that was obviously it came out better than anyone could have thought. It had a magical feeling, a cinematic feeling. The game itself was a big success. And when the White Sox walk-off homer against Aaron Judge and the Yankees, Costner there, Phil Alden Robinson, the director being there, it felt wonderful. Everyone coming out of the cornfield. That was great. They tried it again, and like most sequels, it fell short. And I like the fact that they used their imagination with this one, and they had the Rickwood Field game in Birmingham, or actually Fairfield, Alabama. I'm not 100% sure which town it is. Let's cut the chase and call it Birmingham. And of course, it was partially picked there and partially added there because it was where Willie Mays made his pro debut. And we all hoped that Willie would make it. Now, maybe not physically be there because he's been in very ill health. And I had a feeling that if he was alive, they would have done like a satellite hookup and he would have done something. But of course, he died literally 2 days before the game was to take place. And that seemed like a kick to the fruit stand. And then as the day unfolded and the wound of Willie dying was still fresh in everyone's memory, I realized in an odd way it was ideal because we're still mourning him. And the game itself became kind of a makeshift nationally broadcast memorial for Willie Mays, and done so publicly, done so with VIPs and family members and great baseball players, and John Baptiste singing, and Ken Griffey Jr. and CeCe Sabathia and all these, and Barry Bonds, his godson, all there, and Fox News already heading over there. It was that part of it was an absolutely wonderful tribute. And when Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Bonds and Michael Mays came out, Griffey Jr. is one of my favorite players. And Bonds was obviously Willie Mays' godson, and was my dad's second favorite player. My dad loved Barry Bonds. And by the way, how awesome does Barry Bonds look now? Yeah, snicker all you want that he's a lot skinnier now. He looks kind of more like he played when he was with the Pirates. Look me in the eye and tell me he couldn't start on 4 major league teams right now. In fact, I've been saying this for years. The surefire way to get around some of the Bonds controversy and whether or not he should be in the Hall of Fame is every year give him an at-bat and restart his Hall of Fame clock. Give him an at-bat, and then we'll talk about it 5 years from now. And then 5 years from now, give him an at-bat, kick it down the can, kick the can down the road until a lot of the people who have the huge issues with the steroid era go away. I don't totally absolve everyone for the steroid era. I just know that before Bonds ballooned up, there was one person with 400 home runs and 400 steals, and that was Barry Bonds. And I'd be fine if his plaque just had all of his accomplishments before 1999, because that would still be a Hall of Fame plaque. I digress. Jonathan Curran, by the way, who listens all the time, and I hope he thinks I can speak coherently, says the Rockies, A's, White Sox, Miami. Hey, I do Locked On A's. I'm telling you, Bonds could start on the A's. In fact, I may bring that up in a later episode. All right, I'm getting a little off track here. When Mays' son, Michael Mays, pointed out, though, I knew I could bring in my father here somehow, and let's all cheer because he's listening to us. Yeah, I got choked up a little. I did get choked up a little when that. And I thought that was a great thing. And now maybe Dave Landsman would not approve of that, but, you know, I did. My bottom lip started trembling a little bit. And then you had some of the Negro League players, the surviving Negro League players who were there. And Bill Greason, who pitched in the same team with Willie Mays in Birmingham, later pitched with the St. Louis Cardinals after integration. He was there. He's going to be 100 years old in September. And, you know, he's a living monument to that era and a living reminder of the fact that this wasn't that long ago. This isn't ancient history. And by the way, the game itself was really good. I mean, I was hoping, you know, as I'm up here in the Bay Area, I was hoping that it would be a Giants win and, you know, a come from behind win in honor of Willie Mays. But, you know, Brendan Donovan of the Cardinals, he had a great night. You know, he homered, got 3 hits, he drove in 3. St. Louis wound up winning the game 6-5. I maintain that this game should have been the Giants versus the Mets because those are the 2 teams that Willie Mays played for. But I digress. The game itself was a terrific game. And I love that you saw so many great baseball players and dignitaries that cut to Joe Torre. The Fox broadcast was great, setting up stuff. There was wonderful drone shots of the stadium that had that old time feel, that old time, post-war stadium feel, that bingo long Bull Durham feel that they had. By the way, have the next one be at the Durham Stadium and bring Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins back. I digress. But it was a great feeling. It was a great look. They did an inning where they only used technology from 1954. So they had the black and white and the old style graphics. That was really cool. And there was a sense that it was a celebration for people who, for an era that is, as Willie Mays' death reminds us, is slipping away. So let's have this celebration while we can. That being said, there was an element of the night last night that reminded us, I don't want to say a darker side, but a sadder side and something we cannot let go. And I'm very, very glad it happened, because if last night was all celebration, there would have been an element, in my opinion, that would have seemed a tad disingenuous. Look at my fashion, by the way. Look at this shirt. Look at this shirt I'm wearing here. It's kind of a Hawaiian-y shirt. It's kind of a breezy summer shirt. I'm a stylish man. I think we've all been able to get a hold of that. And I like wearing clothes that make me look good, that fit me well, that feel good on me. And you get a great confidence boost. And that's what I get from Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. Body, copy, then your body, perfect sizes for it, and you get to have it be designed and adjusted to you by your stylist. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new, on-trend favorites that still work for you. I give my stylist my size, my style, my budget preference. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And they send me 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works, I send back the rest. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. I don't like to shop for clothes. It's not my thing. And they save me time and effort by doing that for me. And I got outfits that make me look and feel really, really good. And if you don't love something, just send it back. Shipping returns are always for free. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Now's the best time to get started on stitchfix.com/MLB and get $100 off. That's $25 off your first 4 fixes. A limited time only. Go to stitchfix.com/MLB for $100 off. Stitchfix.com/MLB. Redeem within 7 days of sign-up, and the offer does not include kid fixes. Stitch Fix. Hey, let's look good. What is your hub for sports news and takes? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to bring you all the top stories of the day. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Hey, do you know who's on Locked On Sports today? Me, your pal Sully. I was on it today. I was breaking down some of the biggest surprises of the first half of the season. By the way, I like this heavenly glow that this conference room is giving me here. I'll have my new studio set up pretty soon. Don't worry about that. I'm not where I normally am, and I'm not going to be there for about a month. So I'm setting up a new studio so it won't always look like I'm in some sort of metallic heaven. Reggie Jackson sat down in the MLB panel, and every sports show is trying to ape what they did with copy the NBA Tonight Show, where you have Kenny and Charles and Shaq and Ernie and that sort of banter back and forth. They tried to do that with football and baseball. I wish that people would realize that it works in the NBA, because there is a legit chemistry between that group of people, and just try something different for each sport, because not every sport's the same. But that would require imagination, and a lot of times executives of television networks are not very creative people. So they're trying to do the same thing and have that little round table. Let's have 500 baseball personalities just sort of bantering back and forth. It's got to be fun. And I poke fun of it. If they offer that job to me, I'd be there before you could say Jiminy Cricket. But they had fun banter back and forth with some of the guests who came in, and Hall of Famers. When Barry Bonds was in, he was asked how he would do against Satchel Paige, and he said, I would take him deep. And I would expect no less of an answer from Bonds. He's a bombastic, competitive, cocky SOB, always has been. And he said, hey, I want to hit against the best and do well against the best. And they brought in Reggie Jackson. And Reggie Jackson was a minor leaguer in Birmingham. And they threw what they thought was a softball question. Oh, how's it feel being back at Birmingham? And I'm sure they were expecting an answer like, oh, a lot of memories here, and played with a lot of players, great history here, great, blah. And that's not what he did. And that's not the answer he gave. And you've probably seen the clip, and it's hard to watch, and it should be. Some things should be hard to watch. He told us stories about being a minor leaguer in then they were the Kansas City A's organization in the mid-1960s. This was after segregation, before the Civil Rights Act was passed. But no, it was right around the time the Civil Rights Act was passed. My bad. But after segregation. So we're not talking about the movie 42 here. This is mid-60s. And the fact that he's playing in Alabama in the mid-60s. And this was not long after the church was firebombed, not long after Medgar Evers was killed, not long after the events of the movie Mississippi Burning. It was not exactly, the Deep South was not exactly a very fun place for someone like Reggie Jackson to be playing in. And there were hotels he was still not allowed to stay in, restaurants he was still not allowed to go to. And he faced a lot of adversity. He faced a lot of taunts. He faced a lot of threats of violence. And Reggie pointed out that he did indeed have allies, people like Joe Rudy, his teammate for who went on to be his teammate for many years with the Oakland A's when they won world championships together. Dave Duncan and Raleigh Fingers and his former manager, John McNamara, who was a manager both in Oakland and with the California Angels. And I know Johnny Mac is a person who was really derided by Red Sox fans based on how he bungled the 86 World Series, but by all accounts was not just a good baseball man, but a very good man. And, Reggie pointed out his allies. And for someone like me, there's a sense that that would have been me. I would have been an ally. But the sinister thing is the fact that he was able to name a handful by name means that he didn't have as many allies as you would think. And that the strife that he faced, not hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but less than 10 years before I was born, and that it was real. It doesn't go away like that. And was a reminder of not just the sad element of the fact that when they literally wheeled out some of the remaining Negro Leaguers who were players who were kept out of Major League Baseball, not because of their talent, but simply because of their complexion. How sinister that was. And where did that come from? And what was that a product of? It was a product of hate. It was a product of social injustice. Yes, on this show, I have focused on that we lost great baseball because of that. We lost the best competition, not seeing how Oscar Charleston and Judy Johnson and Boudreaux Wilson and Josh Gibbs and Cool Papa Bell and Ray Dandridge would have fared in the major leagues. And knowing that Satchel Paige was still an all-star caliber pitcher by the time he was in his late 40s, early 50s, which makes you wonder what he could have done in his prime. But also it was in the backdrop of violence, of hate, of divisiveness that was tearing the country apart. And it didn't end the nanosecond Jackie stepped on the field. And while you could watch someone who looks like me in my background could watch 42 or listen to Reggie's stories or listen to the stories that Vanessa Ivory Road said on the show about her granddad, Turkey Stearns, or that friend of the podcast, Bob Kendrick, who did several innings of the game last night, say, oh, I would have been like John McGraw. I would have been like Bill Veeck. I would have been like Branch Rickey. We don't know for sure because it was so deeply ingrained in society. And it was real. And it wasn't that long ago. And things like that don't end like this. And it's funny seeing some of the reactions to the integration of the stats maybe nod my head and say, I have a good idea of who might have been someone who would have booed Jackie. And Reggie is there to remind us, yes, it's a celebration. Yes, it should be a happy moment. But why are we celebrating this? Because there's something sinister that happened not too long ago, and the residue of it, I meant to say residue, the concentric circles from that stone being thrown in the water can still be felt. It's still out there because, like any virus, it evolves, it adapts, it finds new things, it finds new ways to express itself. And these are things that the segregation and the fact that he would not have been allowed to stay in certain hotels, certain restaurants. This was not in 1930s Alabama. This is 1960s Alabama. Not that long ago. And a reminder that when, as I said, when they wheeled out all the greats who are still alive, it was recent enough that the participants and people who were segregated are still alive. Not as many as they used to be. But it's not something that happened in ancient history, and something that deeply rooted, that sinister, that horrific does not just go away. And so when you hear people say, stick to baseball on certain social topics, I say no. Because baseball can be one of the flag bearers, one of the heads of the parade to make change. And it has made change in the past. And it has forced people to look at people who look different than them, sound different from them, have different backgrounds than them, and begin the process. But it's a process. It's not instant rice. It's not, boom, now it's done. And there are other things that need to be done, other groups of people who are marginalized, and still there is rancid hatred of people of all shades, colors, backgrounds, languages, creeds, races, genders, and gender identities. They're all out there. And some of them are old-fashioned haters, and some of them have found all brand new things to hate. Baseball always has found a way to lead the way, but baseball has also been part of the problem in the past as well. Yes, it's great that the leagues became integrated, but why were they segregated? That wasn't just a baseball problem. That was a societal problem. And Reggie Jackson made sure we all knew and all recognized that, yeah, this is a great celebration, but let's not pretend it's all about happiness. Well, when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about this upcoming weekend, which should be fun. Hey, it's baseball season, and we here at Locked On MLB, we pride ourselves on getting the news for you all year long. We're talking baseball and Thanksgiving. We're talking baseball at Christmas time, New Year's, Valentine's Day, and it's no matter what's going on, we'll be talking baseball here. It's year round. You know what's also year round? Collection seasons. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank account, even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals at Tax Networks USA go to bat for you. I sometimes work for media companies that either sometimes they pay you up front in cash or they send you a check and you get a 1099 with none of the taxes taken out of it. If I didn't have people like the folks at Tax Network USA working on my side, I could get absolutely clobbered come tax time. You owe this and this. Oh my God, I didn't know that. You need people like this. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved clients over $1 billion in tax debt. That's more than one client, but total $1 billion. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters like I had, or you finally hit that parlay this season, you need help filing correctly, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode description below. Tax Network USA. They're there to help you. This is a reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now available on the Amazon Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the Locked On experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league, like your pal Sully, who appeared on today's show. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channel app. All right, we're getting to that point of the season where the next big event is going to be 4th of July. Then it's going to be the All-Star break, and then it's going to be the trade deadline. And for teams that are on the bubble, it's going to be an interesting time because they got to start making some decisions. As I'm recording this, the Mets are just clobbering the Chicago Cubs. Yeah, I know Met fans hate me for saying they should be rebuilding. I think in the end, they probably have their cake and eat it too. I bet they can unload Lindor's contract and a couple other contracts and still contend. They could do both at the same time. I don't know what's happening with the Cubs. They can't seem to get out of their own way. We have some interesting matchups. The Phillies, who I picked to win the World Series, and brother, they certainly look like they're up for it. They're playing on Apple TV today. Here's a sentence that's never been said. Oh, good, the game's on Apple TV. Jordan Montgomery is going for Arizona. We'll see if he can get his act together. Taijuan Walker is going for the Phillies. So I guess it's an all can they get their act together game. The Pirates and the Rays, a storied rivalry is going on. Two teams that are kind of at the crossroads and are basically at the same record. The Red Sox are now on the cusp of a playoff spot. They're only one game out of a playoff spot. And Cutter Crawford and the Red Sox are heading off to Cincinnati to face Abbott. And the Red Sox are doing very well, thank you very much. The White Sox are the worst team in baseball, and yet they have Freddie going. They have Fetty going today against Flaherty and the Tigers. Fetty is going to be traded. He's too good a trade chip to be going anywhere. The Tigers, I don't know what's going on there. The Blue Jays have to get on a winning streak soon. Otherwise, they're going to start trading players in a few weeks. Carrasco of Cleveland's going against Rodriguez of Toronto. Cleveland just looks really good, and they could bury the Blue Jays, maybe end Schneider's managerial career and end the Vlad Guerrero Jr. era in Toronto. The Mariners and the Marlins, two very close regional rivals in Seattle and Miami. Kirby against Rogers there. The Mariners are in first place. The Marlins are looking to see what they could trade away. An interesting matchup. The Royals, who are dusting themselves off after losing 2 out of 3 in Oakland against the defending world champions Rangers, who are a sub-500 team but have Eovaldi on the mound. I believe the Rangers have a run in them. I just believe too much in Bruce Bochy. The Orioles and the Astros. You like orange uniforms? Well, I got a matchup for you. The Orioles, who beat up the Yankees and are breathing right down their necks to see if they can grab the best record in the American League. I picked them to win the AL pennant, and it's funny. Like, everything was going the Yankees' way. They were at home. They got Cole. They got Judge back. And the last couple of games, the Orioles made mincemeat out of them. And we're going to see if that can continue. The Astros need to go on a run because, lest we forget, they're 5 games under 500. We're in late June, folks. Soon it'll be July. So the whole idea of it's too early to talk about making trades. Really? The trade deadline is less than a month and a half away. The Nationals and the Rockies are playing each other, and the Nationals have been a playoff team despite a sub-500 record. The Twins and the A's finally won another series. They'll be facing Minnesota, who are still a playoff team right now, but have the Red Sox breathing down their neck. We're going to see if the A's can dust themselves off, who won the first series after that disastrous road trip. The Angels and the Dodgers, Knack is pitching for the Dodgers. I hope they play my Sharona. The Padres and Brewers had a thriller the other day, which ended with a Cronenworth walk-off home run. Those two teams are going to be facing off again in San Diego. And the game of the night is going to be Rodon versus Sale, and the Yankees and the Braves are going to be playing on Apple TV, so no one will be able to see it. And so there you go. We got a full slate of games coming up here, and I'm bringing back the trivia question because my days even though I'm on the road right now, I'm getting back in a regular schedule here. The Braves are starting. Well, they're going to have Max Fried going on Sunday, but they have Chris Sale starting today, Charlie Morton starting tomorrow. What World Series accomplishment did both Chris Sale and Charlie Morton achieve in back-to-back years? One did it one year, one did it the other year. What World Series accomplishment did Chris Sale and Charlie Morton perform in back-to-back years in the World Series? That's a trivia question for today. Be ready on Monday. And Jonathan Curran brings up the idea. The Yankees are on Apple too. Nobody likes Apple TV. I still maintain you need to have a premium package you can get on the MLB app where you can watch the game. If you want the Apple TV announcers, great, but you just click on that and you just watch the game. I'll pay a little extra to always know where the game is. But you can always know where I am. So you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast. Sully Baseball Podcast is on Instagram. Sully Baseball is on Twitter. I got a little mixed up there. All right, my last day in the conference room here. Got the studio coming up there on Monday. Thanks for watching Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. I can speak coherently, maybe, and you can call me Sully.